Well, hello, educator friends. It's Ross here with another bite-sized PD on the School Life series. So, as promised in 2025, we're going to bring you some bite-sized PD in between our special guest episodes. And today, I'm excited to talk for the next 10 minutes, maybe 15. We'll see how winded I get about something that I'm really passionate about, and that is the joy in education. So, if you are listening to this currently, you know that it's the end of February, and I believe these are definitely the darkest, toughest days in the school year, right? If you're like majority of the United States, it feels like right now, the weather has not been ideal all winter long. You're tired of the cold, you're tired of all of the dark days. Maybe student behaviors are at an all-time high. You're just not feeling supported. All of these things that are weighing on you, and it's hard to find the joy in your days. Or it's hard to find the joy in education during this time of year. But you also may be saying, I felt like this since August. I have felt like that for 3 years now. Whatever it may be, wherever you may be, I just want to talk to you for a few minutes. And so let's start with acknowledging where we're at, right? Like as educators in education, we are facing some things that can be pretty taxing, that can just bring us down, suck the joy right out of our profession. And so, lack of engagement, declining enrollments for a lot of districts and schools, poor attendance, especially post COVID, low scores, even just that whole, standardized testing cloud that always is hanging over our heads, a lack of respect from students, parents, community, society, and just that feeling of feeling underappreciated with less resources, more on our plate, more initiatives, all of these things. Like that's the reality. That's where we're at right now. And how did we get here? Well, COVID, for one, obviously is still having effects on education, legislation, people that have never stepped foot into your classroom or into a school. They're making decisions for you in your classroom and what you do, whether that's at the local level. And we've seen a lot of school boards that are falling under this, but also at the state level and even at the national level. So we are trying to always fight this uphill battle, it feels like. We've got technology pulling against us, society norms, funding, you name it, it feels like it's attacking education right now. And all of this can lead to that feeling, whether it's, like I said, in February, whether it's how you felt all school year, whether it's how you have felt for years. It's okay to acknowledge where we are at. But what I want to talk about today is how do we get that joy back? Because I got a question for you. And that question is, when was the last time that you truly felt excited about teaching? Really, think about it. And hopefully you can say, last week, I was so excited for this one lesson that we're doing in class and it went so well. But for some of you, you may say, I got to go back 10, 15 years to when I first started in education did I really feel this excitement about it. And then my second question for you is, why is joy in education so important for you, but also for the students that you serve on a daily basis, whether you're a teacher, paraprofessional, principal, superintendent, whatever your role is, you're serving students each and every day. And why is it important to have joy in your role, both for yourself, but also for your students? So take a second as you're driving, you're during your prep period, you're sitting in your office, wherever you're listening at, and think about those two questions right now. And then today, I just want to tap into 5 things that I believe you can implement today that will help you bring joy back into our profession. Some of these are things for you specifically, some of them are for your school or your district. And then some of them, we're going really big here, are for our profession. And it's time that we really do something about this. And so I'm just going to briefly touch on each one of these. If you would like to hear more, then you can either reach out, let's have a conversation, or you can bring me to your school. This is part of a bigger session that I love presenting at schools and talking about at schools. So I can talk to your teachers, I can talk to your admin team, whatever it may be. But I'm excited and I'm really passionate about this topic. And so, how can we get joy back in our profession, back in education? Well, number one, I think we have to start by shifting our mindset. Instead of looking at all the negativity surrounding and all of those things that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, let's start finding the positive all around us because it's there. It really is. And we got to start celebrating even the smallest wins, the daily wins. Celebrate them, make them a big deal. You deserve it. Kids deserve it. And so let's start by shifting our mindset and saying, you know what? We're done. Enough's enough. I am going to show the world just how great teaching is and the difference that I'm making each and every day in the lives of children. We're building tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's generation of great humans. This is great work, special work. And it's time that we recognize that, realize that, and be proud of it. And so number one is just shifting our mindset. All right. When you wake up in the morning, think about all the things that you get to do today at school instead of all the things that you have to do at school today. And so number two kind of goes along with that. And it's stop comparing. Oh my goodness, this is so bad in education. It's everywhere in our society, but we are constantly comparing ourselves to maybe just the teacher next door, maybe to the school down the road, or what really drives me crazy, we're comparing ourselves to the TikTok influencer teacher or Instagram influencer that is only posting about all of the great things that they're doing, or some of them are even being paid by companies to post about things they're doing in their classroom. And it's not necessarily the reality, because the reality is you could be doing that too. There are great, amazing things that are happening in your classrooms, in your schools every single day. But again, if we're only focusing and our mindset is set on all the negatives around us, then it's hard to celebrate those wins and showcase those wins. And so we have to stop comparing ourselves to everyone else. Own your greatness. Own all of the amazing things that you are doing day in and day out. And I already said it. I'm going to say it again. Be proud of what you are doing. And then the third thing that we can do is not do this work alone. So collaboration is key. It's so important that we collaborate with the others in our building. On our last episode with Dr. Brianna Wall, we talked about this. Like, it is so important to have that mutual respect in the schools, but also to make sure that we are collaborating or working together, because it truly takes a village to have success. And if we are in our bubble doing our thing day in and day out, and we're not asking for help, we're not seeking support, or we're not even allowing others to step in and help us, then we're doing ourselves an injustice. We're absolutely doing our kids an injustice, our students. And so let's start collaborating, because one thing that I know is I'm not great at everything. And when I was teaching, when I was principal, I would make sure that the things that I wasn't very good at, or that I struggled with, that I found others around me that were really good at those things, and I leaned on them, or I delegated that to them because I knew that they were going to tackle that task or be better at whatever it was than I was going to be. And at the end of the day, we want the best for our kids. And so start collaborating, allowing others. One of my favorite, conversations I had as a principal was when grade levels would come to me and say, hey, I know we're not departmentalized, but I am not great at math. I don't like teaching math. And so is it okay if my students go to so-and-so next door and she teaches math and I'll take care of reading because I love reading? Yes. You don't have to be departmentalized to do that. There's so many benefits to it. And so that's just one tiny example of collaborating. And it needs to happen more and more in our schools. And then the fourth thing is see the big picture. Again, similar to what all we've been saying, is a lot of times we just get television and we just focus on, you know, the daily ins and outs. We've got to see the big picture. And that big picture is the child that's sitting in your classroom, the classroom of children, or the 500, 600 students that are in your school building. The big picture is seeing them walk across the stage with a diploma in their hands and a smile on their face and their family and friends cheering from the balconies. That's the big picture. And whether you're teaching first grade or 12th grade honors English, you are part of that big picture. And to take it one step further, not only do we want to see them walk across the stage with that diploma, but we want to see them succeed in life. Whether they are going to a 4-year college and getting a master's degree and becoming the next doctor, dentist, whatever it may be, or they are going to a trade. They're getting hired right out of high school at a local factory where they are going to be making good money, providing for their family. All of these different career paths that they have. It's okay as long as they are doing what they love. They're doing it well. They're doing it with passion. They're doing it with kindness. This is the big picture. And so a lot of times as educators, I think it's easy for us to focus on the here, the now, and what we would think is success at the end of our grade level or at the end of the semester. And not every child's going to hit that mark. And that's okay. Because I say this a lot when I speak at schools is, as educators, we don't get to see our harvest at the end of each year necessarily. So I'm from a farming community, and farmers in our community, they get to see their harvest every fall, right? They plant the seed in the spring, and in the fall, they harvest the beans or the corn or whatever it may be. It's a pretty simple process. There's a lot that goes into it, but they get to see their harvest at the end of each school year. As a teacher and as an educator, we always don't get that. And so we may have a student that finishes your grade level, and yes, they're going on to the next grade level, but you can't put your finger on their growth. You can't say, I really feel like I did my job with that child. And it's easy to get discouraged, but you need to know that you played a role. Because I have had this as an educator time and time again, when I've even had, former students run into me at the grocery store or at different events that we've been out, and they come up and say, hey, thanks for believing in me back in 6th grade or back in elementary school. I know that I was struggling. I had a lot going on in my life, and you believed in me. You didn't give up on me. And now this is what I'm doing with my life. Married, I have children, all of these things. And I can walk away from that conversation and say, I played a role in that. Right? That's our harvest as educators, all of those events that we have time and time again. And so seeing the big picture. I know I rambled a little bit there, but it's so important to see the big picture. And then you're going to say, wait a minute, you're telling me to see the big picture, but number 5 is to operate in the now. So what do I mean by this? I mean by celebrating those daily wins. Operate in the now by living in the moment with your kids. Don't be constantly worried about standardized tests and low performance and, all of these things that we mentioned at the beginning of this Bitesize PD. But cherish the time that you have together, right? You only have 180 school days with your students. Cherish those 180 days that you have as a family, whether it's with a grade level, whether it's with a classroom, whether it's with a whole school, a district. Take that year and operate in the now. Celebrate your small wins. Celebrate the big wins. Show gratitude as well. As something we miss so much in our schools is seeing all of the great things, but then also recognizing them. And it can be as simple as a handwritten note placed on a desk. And if you want to level it up one, put a candy bar with it. But just say, thank you. I saw what you did with your students today, or you really helped me get out of this funk that I was in, and I appreciate you. It's that simple of act that you can do to show gratitude for one another. And so those are 5 very small introductions, 5 pieces that I feel like we can all implement into our daily lives that's going to help us bring back the joy in education. It's time. All right. So I've got a call to action for you. And that call to action is right now, not if you're driving, but as soon as you stop driving, you get home. So write down one action that you can take to bring back your joy in teaching. And then number two is to write down one action that you can take to help America. And I know you're like, well, what can I do? I'm serious. What is one action that you can do that you can take to help America bring back the joy in education, the joy in teaching? And then number three is to post or share one positive thing from your classroom or your school each week. All right. If you have social media, then do it on social media. That's great. If you don't have social media, that's not your thing, then tell your neighbor about it. Go home and make a phone call, send a text message to a family member or a friend of a picture or just a text message that says, this is what I did this week. I'm proud of it. All right. So start sharing out the positive. And then number four is to share or post one positive thing that you see someone else doing in your school. And so, again, do on social media. If you don't have social media, just let someone else know that you are impressed, you're proud of what that colleague is doing. And so that's your call to action. That's the 5 small pieces that we can start with to bring back the joy in your daily teaching lives, education lives. And then one thing I think you'll really notice when you start implementing these things on a daily basis, they're going to trickle and flood into your personal lives as well. And all of a sudden you feel less stress. All of a sudden you feel happier in your homes, in your relationships, and all of these things. So that's your Bite-Size PD on the School Life series for this week. Next week, we've got Dr. Brittany Porter from West Virginia, middle school principal who has implemented and created an incredible CTE program with her middle school students. So she's going to talk about that. Then also, she's going to dive into relationships and connections with students is something she does really, really well with her students in West Virginia. And she's going to talk about meeting kids where they are at. As always, thank you for listening in. Thank you for liking, sharing the School Life series. If you want to be a guest, reach out. Let's connect. If you know someone that would be a great guest on the School Life series, I'm always looking for great educators, but also awesome human beings. And I pride myself on that with the School Life series. And we're going to continue to bring outstanding guests as we roll through season 3 of the School Life series. So until next time, be great today.